more person. Sorry.
Your signature from the week you were absent.
Okay.
Well, not absent, my phone.
Okay.
I still have you sign when you just you were voting.
Oh, okay.
Good evening. Justin, could you please give the invocation?
All right. Well, good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, and everyone here tonight. Would you please pray with me?
Good, how are you?
Lord of heaven and earth, we praise you and thank you for your power and wisdom, for your mercy and grace, for every good and perfect gift that you send down freely, especially as we ask. So we thank you for of health, of community and relationships, of governance and leadership. We thank you for this city and for our public servants, Lord, for this mayor and council and our department heads, and even as we see the firefighter, the forces here tonight, and these men being sworn in, we pray for your blessing upon them. Lord, you are actively ruling the nations, and you give freely to those who ask wisdom from you. So we ask that you might grant to the leaders of our city the humility to seek wisdom from you and strength and character that is fitting for those who lead. May they find your mercy and grace that you offer freely through Jesus Christ. Please help each one of us tonight in these chambers to act honorably before you and lovingly and graciously toward each other. We ask that you'd give Mayor Miller wisdom, grace, and strength as she leads, as well as to each council member and department head. Father, you have designed each one of us. You have fearfully and wonderfully made us, as well as gifting each one with strength and wisdom, and we confess our dependence upon you, you in whom we live and move and have our being. And so we ask these things in the name of Christ, your Son. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Justin. So now we'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Clem,
Here.
Monroe is absent, Simmons. Here. Parker is absent, Stacy. Here. Shadle.
Here.
Sanders.
Here.
And Sellers.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Alderman Stacy. Item number 1 is the approval of the agenda. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Shadle, Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Clem. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on April 1st, 2024. Is there such a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Clem. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Public comments, we have a few. First would be Ashley Heilman.
Ashley Howman. I have read the memo in regards to the software purchase. However, do have
Ashley, can you pull the microphone down to you?
Sure.
Thank you.
I do, however, have some questions that come to the front of my mind. I was able to speak with Mr. Boyer prior to the meeting about some of those questions and thank him for that. But I do feel the council also should have the answers to the question. 1, will the system truly be integrated with all aspects of the city of Freeport? Water department, code enforcement, community development, fire, and police, or will all those systems need upgrading as well? 2, have you talked to the city of Rockford or the housing providers in Rockford to see their thoughts on the system? As my understanding is, some housing providers are having issue with the fact that the police notification is not happening. 3, if this is a solution for the city and the landlords, why have the landlords and managers not been able to see the system at work or a demo and know that the functions are in a manner that will be work for the city as well as those of us, so that it is truly a tool for both sides. 4, will this purchase fix the issues that the city has with absentee owners and bad tenants? 5, what information will be used to get this program started that has been made clear that the current registry does not represent the true number of rentals or owners in Freeport? Please know that I am in support of the system that makes it easier for landlords in the city to work together for a better Freeport. There are just some unanswered questions before a purchase of this size be made, and I'm hopeful some of those may be answered this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Next would be Linda Johnson.
Mayor Jody, Manager Boyer, council members, and leaders in our community. I'm strongly opposed to allowing alcohol to be served in the Lindo Theater. Alcohol is linked with violence, and we want to decrease violence in our city, and yet we continue to support increased opportunities for public alcohol consumption. Theaters are family places. Many children and youth attend there. What kind of message are we sending to our youth? You can't watch a movie without having alcohol? Also, would this take business away from the businesses that are already established in the downtown area? I ask you to vote no on ordinance number 2024-19. Thank you.
Thank you. And then last on agenda items is Jilly Whiting.
Hi there, Jilly Whiting, also with the Freeport Area Housing Providers, kind of reiterating what Ashley just said, but my thoughts were, has the city really determined precisely what this third new software program will solve and how it will be different from the past programs before accepting it and voting on it? Has this program under consideration tonight been reviewed and approved by every department it's supposed to impact? Does the yearly $20,000 price also include any integration with each of these departments? While it sounds on paper like it will not need any human input, it will still need a person to monitor it. Shouldn't you first address to educating Freeport landlords that a rental registry even exists? Somehow this critical step has been bypassed. I would guess probably at least 90% of landlords in Freeport still have no clue. I believe recently the penalty for not registering was recently raised for non-compliance, but I have yet to see any follow-through for those who don't comply. Shouldn't this issue be addressed first before deciding to buy another expensive program? As we've mentioned over and over through the years and different administrations, it would be prudent to have landlords at the table to help in these deciding factors before you just vote on another system. Those involved in the Landlord Association are all for the registry that helps all parties. Landlords invest in Freeport because we love and believe in the growth and success of our community. It would be smart to include us in your decision-making process before jumping into a third program that ultimately might not achieve your goals. We would love to work together.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be routine in nature and acted as one motion unless there's a member of the council that would like to have something removed for further discussion. Seeing none, the consent agenda consists of approving to receive and place on file the minutes from the boards and commissions for the Foreign Fire Insurance Board for February 8th and the Liquor Commission for March 14th, 2024. Also is the Police Department report for February and March 2024 and the Fire Department report, as well as the building permit report for March 2024. Also is the approval of finance bills payable in the amount of $1,455,776.17 and approval of payroll for pay period ending April 6, 2024 in the total of $605,420.07. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Monroe? Clem Monroe? Motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Monroe. Alderman Monroe. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Stacy. Aye. Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
And Simmons.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0.
And item number 5 is appointments. Could you please read this?
Appointment of Joshua Atkinson to the Planning Commission effective immediately until October 31st, 24, and automatically reappointed to fill the 4-year seat term.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Monroe. Madam Clerk, could you please take the, or I guess we can do a voice vote, can't we? Oh, is there any discussion? Alderman Stacy?
Yes, why Joshua?
I'm sorry?
Why was he chosen?
He came to me with his form filled out and with all the reasons why, which is in your packet of how he fits in with planning, and he's new to the community and he wants to be involved. If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
and Simmons. And that motion passes 7-0.
You're good. Just putting my stuff here.
Okay, it's my pleasure to introduce 3 new firefighters that started last Monday. So I call your name, please come up here and join us. Nick Wyborn. Daniel Hart. William Clay. So these gentlemen started their 30-year career last Monday, so it'll be a long ways from now, but welcome to the department. As you can see, the support from your peers here. We're excited to have you on board, so congratulations and welcome aboard.
All right, thank you, Chief Miller. My name is Mark Gridley. I'm the chairman of the Board of Fire and Police Commission, and I'm honored to be joined by my fellow commissioner, Mr. Bush, who has spent a lifetime of service to the Freeport Fire Department. So I think it's only fitting that Mr. Bush will actually present you the physical copies of your commissions, and I will read those. On the commission, we take our roles very seriously. We are community members that live within the city. There are 5 of us, and we ask ourselves, are these the kind of individuals that we would be able to count on during our time of need to protect our lives, to protect our property, to protect our families? And the fact that each of you are standing here today is a great honor, because the answer is yes, that we believe in all of you. And every one of the individuals that serves on the Freeport Fire Department are outstanding members of the community, and there is never a doubt in our mind that they will do the right thing and they will do extraordinary things whenever called upon. So this is a great privilege for you to be joining the ranks of these individuals. So we'll start with the official commission. City of Freeport Board of Fire and Police Commission. To all to whom these present shall come, Nicholas J. Wyborn, having been duly appointed to the position of firefighter in and for the City of Freeport in the County of Stevenson and the State of Illinois, for the term from the 8th day of April 2024 until his successor shall have been duly appointed and qualified, is hereby fully authorized and empowered to assume and perform all the duties of his said office according to the law and the ordinances of said city, and all persons are required to respect him in the discharge of his said duties by the order of the Board and Fire and Police Commission. Official Commission, City of Freeport Board of Fire and Police Commission. To all to whom these present shall come, Daniel J. Hart, having been duly appointed to the position of firefighter EMTB in and for the City of Freeport in the County of Stevenson and State of Illinois, for the term from the 8th day of April 2024 until his successor shall have been duly appointed and qualified, is hereby and fully authorized and empowered to assume and perform all the duties of his said office, according to the law and ordinance of said city, and all persons are required to respect him in the discharge of his said duties by order of the Board of Fire and Police Commission. Official Commission, City of Board and Fire Police Commission. To all to whom these present shall come, William R. Klug shall be duly appointed to the position of firefighter in and for the City of Freeport in the County of Stevenson and State of Illinois for the term from the 8th day of April 2024 until his successor shall have been duly appointed and qualified, is hereby fully authorized and empowered to assume and perform all the duties of his said office according to the law and ordinance of said city, and all persons are required to respect him in the discharge of his said duties by order of the Board of Fire and Police Commission.
Okay, I've got a couple of proclamations to read. I'm not sure if there's anyone here from the Arbor Day. If not, I'll just read that for the record. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas the holiday known as Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of over 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world and is considered a holiday that celebrates nature with the purpose to encourage the planting of trees, and whereas trees can reduce erosion of topsoil, lower our energy costs, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable source, providing paper, wood to burn and heat our homes, fuel for fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance and beautify our communities. And whereas I encourage all citizens to plant and care for trees in our community, and encourage you to work with city staff to help select the best tree for each area. Now therefore, I, Jody Miller, Mayor of the City of Freeport, by the authority vested in me, declare Friday, April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the City of Freeport. And then Linda, if you could please come forward. And this is a proclamation concerning the National Day of Prayer. Whereas the first National Day of Prayer was proclaimed by the Continental Congress in 1775, and whereas in 1952 the United States Congress approved a joint resolution setting aside a day each year to recognize the importance and value of prayer throughout America, and whereas the National Day of Prayer is a time set aside for Americans to pray and to reflect upon the spiritual principles on which our nation was founded, and whereas this year marks the 72nd anniversary of the National Day of Prayer. And whereas this year's theme is liberty and justice for all, taken from Galatians 5:13, which says, "Ye have been called unto liberty, by love serve one another." And whereas it is appropriate for the citizens of Freeport and Stevenson County to join in this year's National Day of Prayer and call upon the Almighty for guidance and assistance. Now therefore, I, Jody Miller, Mayor of the City of Freeport, do hereby declare May 2nd, 2024 as the National Day of Prayer in the City of Freeport. Further, I hereby extend greetings and well wishes to all observing this day and invite the citizens of our city to join and seek for the guidance and direction of Almighty God in the affairs of our city and our individual lives. Thank you, Linda. Thank you. Now you want to have
Thank you. I would like to honor Debbie and Rick Leinier, who have orchestrated this National Day of Prayer for the last 23 years, and the many people that have assisted them at that time, and also the many people of this city that have sponsored it. It wouldn't be possible without the input and the support of the city in Freeport to have this, so we appreciate that. Also, if you would like to come to the morning one, please call 815-297-2918 to register to make sure that we have enough food for everybody for the breakfast. And also that evening, there will be a gathering at the Father's house and a couple of other places around the city. So please join, because our nation needs prayer and we need God. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. We will go on to item number 8, which is the first reading of Ordinance 2024-19. Could you please read this?
Ordinance amending Chapter 806, adding theater classifications.
Thank you, Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tivoli Enterprises, Classic Cinemas, who operates the Lindo Theater, has approached the city as well as the Liquor Commission, and they're asking for a specific classification of a liquor license. And the Liquor Commission was held March 14th of 2024, and in your packet there was the attached changes of what they're proposing, or what has been proposed to the code for adding theaters as their own liquor license. And kind of some of the highlights here to talk about it is, one of the main ideas is that it's going to be somebody attending the theater would have to have a ticket to be allowed to purchase alcohol and drink alcohol on site. So that's different than obviously a bar or restaurant where you can just sit and drink. It won't be a restaurant situation. The ordinance, I've gone through it, and it specifically lists that there cannot be a seating area dedicated for drinking. The intent would be you would go buy your movie ticket, have a drink if that's what you so choose. Some of the specifics here, in conjunction with the limited license, these classified licenses, there's actually two. There's a community theater license, which would have an insurance fee of $250 as well as a annual fee of $250. And then the for-profit theater license would have a $1,500 fee for insurance and then a $750 annual fee. So in reviewing this, staff recommends moving this ordinance forward.
Is there a motion to move Ordinance 2024-19 on?
So move. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion. Alderman
Madam
Stacey?
Mayor, I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify one thing, Director Duckman. That's an issuance fee, not insurance fee. So that's a one-time, the larger amount is a one-time, and the smaller amount is the renewal.
Thank you for that clarification.
No problem.
Alderman Stacey, did you have something?
Yes, can you tell me if the alcohol license have been changed, the cost?
Well, that's what they're proposing right now. So this ordinance would change it to what I discussed. So there's going to be two classifications. And again, it's the issuance fee, which would be the initial, as Clerk Anderson specified. So a theater for profit would be $1,500, and then therefore going forward would be $750 for their annual fee. That's what we're proposing here. So right now they would just fall under, right now they don't have a classification.
Originally, what was the annual fee?
A typical Tier 1 license would be $10,000 for a bar, restaurant, etc. So and also let me back up there. I'm glad you brought this up. in this ordinance change, they're changing the fact that theaters were prohibited to have alcohol in them. So to be a little more technical here, section 60804 stated prior to this proposed change that shall be unlawful for any person to carry or possess any alcoholic beverage in a public street or in any theater. So as of right now, it's illegal. And what's being proposed, multiple things, multiple items, it's being proposed to scratch the in any theater so that it would be allowed to have alcohol in a theater. And then further, there's specific classifications for theaters.
So how do they determine to go from $10,000 to $750?
And I think it has more to do with, again, to become a little more technical here, it has to do with this license. It would be more of it's an accessory, I would call it an accessory use, because we're talking about how somebody could go to a movie theater, could have a ticket and say, let me buy one drink, as opposed to going to a bar or restaurant and having multiple drinks. And so if you go to a bar, their business, their primary source of revenue is alcohol, serving alcohol. And so in that case, if you want to serve alcohol, we're saying that's your primary use, $10,000. In this situation, we're saying it's more of an accessory. It has less of a fee.
I remember when they first started talking about this, and the fee was, I'm sorry,
That's okay.
the fee was at the higher rate of the original 10,000, and I just don't know how it's determined just to drop it down to
Actually,
7.
it started at 5 because there's different tiers. The 10,000 is like everything. There's a $5,000. Duffy, do you want to
Yeah,
elaborate?
if I may, this would be more in line with like our rental hall or, what's the other one?
Meeting hall.
No,
Don't mention that.
I'm so sorry. It's like caterer's license or meeting hall. And it's similar to like what Jeff Krogel used to have over at the Masonic Temple. Tier 3 does have an issuance fee of $1,250, but he didn't operate all the time. The annual renewal on that was based on the number of events. So it's restricted more than what a restaurant that pays $10,000 would be. There's other restrictions, such as they can only start serving a certain amount of time before a movie. Like Director Duckman said, there's no bar where you can sit and just continue to order. There's no buckets or fish bowls. You can't get 6 at a time. You've got one ticket, you've got one drink. You and your spouse go, you've got 2 tickets, you get 2 drinks. You don't sit there and reorder. Well, you can go back up. It also specifies, what a single serving is, and no drink specials. So they're not really operating like a bar, and we do have precedents for other types of restricted licensing.
Alderman Clem.
Having attended all the liquor commission meetings for all of this, couple things that are different is the license, as Dovey mentioned, was dropped down, but it's a $1,500 issuance license, not a $750. The $750 is a renewal fee. Everybody that serves alcohol from the place has to be Bassett trained, and their setup is they have nothing more than a couple coolers sitting there, and they'll either serve some type of beer in a cooler, some type of wine in a bottle, or some type of other drink. So there's not as though there's mixed drinks floating around and somebody can come in and buy a whole bunch of them. They came in with a complete list of their other facilities that they had. I believe there was 15, and showed us what they paid for liquor licenses at each one of those 15 and the profits that they made and the amount of liquor that was sold. That's really what went into this. It was a long period of time. It's been 6 months. So there's been a lot of discussion to get where this is at now.
Alderman Sellers.
This company is out of around by Chicago and everything,
Yeah.
right? And all their other theaters, they do sell alcohol, correct?
Yes. This is the only one that does not, correct?
Alderman Sanders?
Yeah, I gave this whole thing a thought about the theater wanting to add alcohol to its establishments. And I'm glad Mr. Duckman mentioned the fact that there was an ordinance, a policy, at one point in time for forbidding alcohol sale in these types of establishments, especially when it's a family-oriented one. I can understand changes. I'm not objecting to changes. The things that I'm wondering is, did we exhaust all of the provisions of a family-oriented establishment, and whether or not the establishment is the one that is urging the representation of alcohol when it's been a family-oriented establishment? I'm just wondering what's driving the alcohol thing in this type of community. We're not a big city where alcohol privileges are permitted. But the thing about it is, just because a city is doing it or some other, I want to say owners in other cities, small cities, big cities, or whatever is doing it, that doesn't mean that they set the standard for Freeport. Freeport set its own standard, and who are we supposed to listen to? The voters of this city, the people that is concerned about their families getting caught up in this kind of thing, and what kind of signal are we sending to our children if we permit alcohol? Next thing you know, we're going to want to permit marijuana. Remember, that is part of our legal statute as well. I mean, legislation as well. And so, if we're willing to extend all of the things that we considered as morals that creates problems amongst family, creates all kinds of things that hinders the growth of children, because they're no longer focused on the purpose of going to movies. They have already observed how alcohol is dispensed throughout the community, and then you got one on one side of the street, one on the other side. I'm talking about the ones in our community. And have we exhausted all of the policies and the problems that it can create? Have we had a decent sit-down discussion to analyze the whole thing? That's one thing that I'm concerned about. Have we analyzed from the bottom to the top?
Alderman Stacy?
You know, I go to the movies, and those are jobs for a lot of young students. And so if they're not even of age, they can't even sell it. So that's going to eliminate a job. Who's to say one night cleaning up they won't be curious or encouraged to try it, or what have you. It just seemed like everything, 99.9% of everything we do as a city involves liquor. And if you want a drink, have a drink before you go. It's supposed to be outrageous and $12 for a beer. Why even go through all the rigmarole and take the chance on taking a job away from a high school student that's trying to get out there and be successful.
Alderman Clem?
I would assume that the manager on duty would be over 21 years old and could make this a sale without any problem, and there'd be no reason why somebody should lose a job over it. The amounts of alcohol that they sell in their theaters is very little.
Alderman Stacy?
And that very well may be true. There's always a manager there, but the manager is out of sight right now because they don't have to come in and do the job of one of the other workers because they can handle soda and ices and popcorn. It's the liquor aspect.
Okay, so just for some clarity, the coolers are always locked and your servers will be Bassett trained.
Yes, always locked, and the only people that have access are 21 Bassett trained order holders.
Thank you. Alderman Sellers?
No, that's the question I was
Okay.
going to ask.
Alderman
Are
Clem,
they-
did you have another one?
No, that was fine. That cleared
Any
it up.
further discussion? Alderman Monroe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As a person that doesn't really drink very often, this is a tough one for me. My spiritual beliefs say no, but I do understand, having traveled and gone to the movies as well, that the movie theaters aren't as full as they used to be. And I know that this is a business that's trying to stay profitable, trying to move forward, and I think we have to kind of look at it from a standpoint what's best for the community. What that is, I'm still on the fence about, but I look at it from a standpoint of it's one more avenue for them to turn a profit, but it's also a risk for the community by having alcohol in a movie theater. Having been to many sports events where people who have drank before they went to the movie, or to a game in this instance, then has another drink there, you're not really, it's easy enough. I mean, it's what, 40 feet from a bar across the street to the movie theater. I think that's really kind of where I'm leaning. You could easily get one before, you could also get one right after. And I'm not sure why it would, other than profitability, there would be a strong reason for this. But, I just wanted to throw that out there, my 2 cents. I've heard from constituents in my ward who pretty much 50-50, 55-45, something like that, are, kind of on the fence like I am. So this is a tougher one for us to kind of settle, but I think if we all kind of look at it as a community, I think we'll probably come up with the right decision.
Alderman Sellers?
I have to agree with you, Alderman Monroe. I'm just kind of torn between it because of traveling to different places and going to the theaters there. Not only do they just have the cocktails, they have a full-blown meal. But I do understand that our community doesn't have to always follow what another community does. I totally agree with that too. But I'm torn between that, or is it something that that the theater, because my child grew up working at the Lindo Theater, so is it something that is going to help them make a better profit? Because I know with Hulu and all those different prime times and all those different things, a lot of people wait to watch the movie when it comes on TV versus going to the theater. So I'm just wondering, I guess a little more information on that area of what is the big need right now.
Well, remember that there's no vote tonight, so it won't be on the agenda until the first meeting of May. Alderman Sanders?
Yes, I'm also concerned about the things that we're talking about and the fact that we have not established any safeguards set in place for an environment for children to be exposed to not only the actual product, but the fact that it has actually been exposed to the children in a way where they know about it. Just like even in schools, high schools or whatever, college campuses or colleges or whatever, once you're exposed to a certain thing, you're going to have that temptation. The temptation is always there to be exploited, and we're not looking at the safeguarding of our children as they mentally grow up in this environment. We're not looking at that, and we need to establish some kind of way that they are able to provide the counsel with some kind of policy, safeguarding, or whatever it takes to monitor how they're going to establish this, because they got to be in a designated area where children cannot be exposed to this type of environment. And not only that, within inside of the theater itself, where the movie is playing. I think that's part of the intent, is to be able to have drinks sitting in front of a movie when you have children in the same environment that you're in. And I think that's what, even in bar and grills, they try to make sure that children are not sitting at the bars having a drink, or if their parents are not with them supervising them, and so on and so on. And so we don't have that. We don't have that at theaters where parents go to the movies with children. These days they go virtually by themselves. And so I'm just concerned about the safeguarding of the exposure and the environment and the designated areas that this is going to be administered.
Alderman Stacy?
What do the community gain? What is the gain for our community to have liquor in the movie theater? What do we gain as a community? What do we gain as a city?
Well, for one, there's food and beverage tax that'll be added on, so you could count on a little bit of revenue. I mean, that would be one thing as far as the city's concerned. The community, I guess that's up to the individual, however they view it. There's no further discussion. We'll move on to item number 9, which is the first reading of Ordinance 2024-20. Could you please read this?
Ordinance amending various provisions of Chapter 864 Solicitors of the Codified Ordinances, including increasing costs to obtain a solicitation permit.
Chief Schenberger?
Thank you. The Freeport Police Department currently charges $51.25 for individuals to solicit within the city of Freeport. This amount has made it easy for solicitors to apply for permits. The amount charged by the city is by far the lowest amount when compared to other municipalities. For an individual to solicit within the city of Freeport, they need to complete a registration for solicitation and pay the $51.25 registration fee. The individual is then fingerprinted and subject to a background check. If approved, the registration is valid for 30 days. The solicitor can then reapply for renewal by paying an additional $20. The city is at times overburdened with solicitors, which may be the result of a low fee charged to solicit. The police department has to allocate manpower to fingerprint applicants and respond to calls for service when citizens have become annoyed by the presence of a solicitor at their door. And just to add on that, today we had a call from 2 citizens. There was 2 individuals that were soliciting that did not have a permit, and then we found them and cited them under the ordinance. So the request is to amend the Solicitor's Ordinance 864 to the following: a $250 fee for the first 30 days, $100 for one extension of an additional 30 days, limit the time a business is allowed to solicit to no more than 60 days in any given calendar year, set the approved time to solicit between the hours of 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., and to prohibit soliciting on Sundays and state or national holidays. There is no funding for this, and it's aligned with the strategic plan.
Thank you. Is there a motion to move this forward?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 10, which is the first reading of Ordinance 2024-21. Could you please read this?
Ordinance granting special use application at 440 East Challenge Street, Freeport, submitted by Freeport Moose Lodge to examine the special use of a B11 restricted retail business zoned property to allow restaurants with outdoor serving areas per section 1252.01B10.
Thank you. Director Duckman.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the Moose Lodge approached the city of Freeport and presented a special use permit requesting the ability to serve alcohol outside, which is it requires a special use permit. And staff reviewed this application and presented it to the Zoning Board of Appeals, which had met on April 4th. And it was recommended for approval by a vote of 5 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions. And then the Planning Commission reviewed the application, and it was recommended for approval on April 11th with a vote of 5 yeas, 0 nays, 0 abstentions. And we have two recommendations here. The Moose Lodge has worked diligently with city staff, and staff is recommending approval of the ordinance in line with the Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Commission, but there's also a request to suspend the rules.
Is there a motion to move this forward?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Monroe, seconded by Alderman Sellers.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Is there a second?
Second. Yeah, Shadle.
All right, we have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Shadle to suspend the rules. Suspension of the rules is non-debatable and must pass by 2/3 majority. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the suspension only?
Stacy?
Aye.
That's non-debatable.
No, that,
Sorry.
the suspension is just, that's all you're voting on. Do you want to suspend the rules? Director Duckman?
Thank you. And Alderperson Simmons, the reason for it is the Moose Lodge wants to start moving forward. There is going to be some financial benefit for their organization. And oftentimes, I would say most restaurants or most organizations in this situation do request a suspension of the rules. The next meeting would be 3 weeks from today due to there being 5 Mondays. So they wouldn't be able to open probably until, middle of May otherwise. So typically, many restaurant owners request that you have suspension of rules on these special use permits.
So that's typically on all suspension of the rules, it's a time issue. So you want to take the roll on the suspension only?
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons? And the suspension passes 7-0.
So then before you, council, is the final passage for ordinance 2024-21. Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
And Simmons? And the ordinance passes 7-0.
And next is item number 11, which is the first reading of ordinance 2024-22. Could you please read this for the record?
Ordinance granting special use application at 540 East Challenge Street, Freeport, submitted by Freeport Moose Lodge to examine the special use of a B11 restricted retail business zone property to allow clubs or lodges, nonprofit lodges, fraternal or
Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, this is the same organization, the Moose Lodge, same location at 440 East Challenge Street. And just to give a little background here, I think most people are aware that they did move their location. They've been in this area for a long time, 100 years. And this is more of a housekeeping, following the rules item where in order to operate a lodge or club, you do have to have a special use permit. And again, the Moose Lodge has been great to work with staff. They've been diligent in getting their application in. And this was presented to the Zoning Board of Appeals on April 4th, and it was recommended for approval by a vote of 5 yeas, 0 nays, 0 abstentions. And again, the Planning Commission met on April 11th, and they reviewed this application, and they recommended it for approval by a vote of 5 yeas, 0 nays, 0 abstentions. And this is another situation where the organization has requested a suspension of the rules, and staff is recommending approval of this ordinance.
Is there a motion to move this forward?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Monroe. Discussion?
Motion to suspend.
Second.
And we have a motion to suspend the rules made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Monroe. Again, suspension of the rules is non-debatable and must pass by 2/3. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the suspension only?
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
And Simmons. The suspension passes 7-0.
Then the final reading of the ordinance is for 2024-22. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons. The ordinance passes 7-0.
And item number 12 is the first reading of ordinance 2024-23. Could you please read this?
Ordinance granting special use application at 1801 Southwest Avenue, Freeport, submitted by King's Bar and Grill to examine the special use of a B3 commercial and wholesale zone property to allow restaurants, taverns, packaged liquor stores, and any other establishments selling alcoholic beverages for consumption on or off the premises. We're missing a section number. Paragraph
I can-
B11.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Duckman.
201B11. Clerk Anderson, yes.
Got it.
For clarification, yes. So what's happening here, this is the old Logan's location, for everyone's little background here. And we know that that's been vacant for quite a while. I believe at least 2 years, or it has not been operating.
No, it was actually November, I believe.
Was it November? Or
Yeah.
maybe it was. I apologize for that. But it has been vacant or not operating for a while. And so King's Bar and Grill approached the city staff and had said that they want to operate in that location. And per ordinance, it's a requirement that even though it was a bar or restaurant serving alcohol before, the new owner has to come in and apply for a special use permit to then serve alcohol in this location. So this went for approval, or this went to the Zoning Board of Appeals on April 4th, and it was recommended for approval by a vote of 6 yeas, 0 nays, 0 abstentions. And it went to the Planning Commission on April 4th, and it was recommended for approval with a vote of 5 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions. And the petitioner has requested a suspension of the rules, and in reviewing this, staff is recommending approval of the ordinance.
Is there a motion to move this forward?
Move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Monroe.
Are you asking for suspension on this?
Yes, Alderperson Clem.
Motion for suspension?
Second.
And we have a motion on the floor made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Monroe for the suspension of the rules. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the suspension only?
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
And Simmons. The motion passes 7-0.
Okay, now before you, council, is for the second reading of this ordinance. Is there discussion? Alderman Stacy.
Yes. This is Greek to me. What is the difference between a B1 and a B3? B1-1 compared to a B-3?
Sure. So essentially, the way you would look at it is a B1. It's a zoning question. It's a zoning classification. So B1 is going to be more of your simple, smaller businesses, more retail, restaurants, uses similar to that. And when you start getting into B3, you're going to look at more in what would be called an intense use. So at a location with B3, you could do a restaurant, you could operate a retail store, but at the same time, you would be able to do an automotive sales. You would maybe have a location that would do painting or body automotive repair. It's getting into the weeds a little bit, but every property in the city of Freeport has a zoning classification. So it's not necessarily relevant to this request, but if somebody has B3, not only can they operate a restaurant, they could do more intense uses.
Attorney Zito has a comment on that.
So with regards to the B11 or B3, that just happens to be what each of those particular parcels are currently zoned. So on the item number 11, that piece of land happens to have B11 zoning. That's why it's referenced. For the second one for the King's Bar and Grill, that piece of land happens to have B3 zoning. Now, in both categories, whether it's B11 or B3, there's a mechanism to allow for the establishment to apply for a liquor license, which is what they're doing. But that's the difference between the reference to B11 or B3. It just happens to be what that parcel has for its underlying zoning classification. You know, hypothetically, it could have been light industrial or residential or whatever. I mean, those are bad examples. You can't have liquor license in residential, but that's all it's referencing is the underlying
Okay.
zoning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alderman Sanders.
By any chance, on the permits, is there any modification changes to the location of where this is planning to be reestablished, and had anything been modified where Logan's ran a certain portion of that section? Does that continues to stay the same?
It'll be substantially the same. You know, they're planning on doing some remodeling. They've discussed that. They would have a building permit for remodeling, but they're not going to, it's still going to be essentially a bar.
Because what you're saying is it's not going to be sectioned off. It's just an extension of the Logan's Bar and Grill that used to be there, where there has been areas of Logan Bar for setting up video games and pool recreations and things of that nature that went on there. Had anything was modified that does not give them the permission to own all of that section area that they're referring to?
No, they're moving into what was before Logan's. Now it's going to be King Bar and Grill, and they're essentially running, right, they're changing the name on the door, but it's essentially substantially going to be the same.
Okay.
You know.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
And Simmons. The ordinance is adopted 6-0.
And item number 13 is the first reading of ordinance 2024-24. Could you please read this?
Ordinance granting special use application at 1801 Southwest Avenue, Freeport, submitted by King's Bar and Grill to examine the special use of a B3 commercial and wholesale zone property to allow restaurants with outdoor serving areas. That's probably also 1252 B10.
Thank you. Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is a petition again from King's Bar and Grill, and this is a situation where they are petitioning for an outdoor serving area, and in the application, provided it illustrates that the outdoor serving area would be on their sidewalk in front of the building. That's where they're proposing to remove. There's an entry area to keep you out of the cold, and so in the application that was sent to everybody in their packet, it shows the illustration of what they would want it to look like. But going forward with this petition, the petitioners came to the city and stated that they wanted to have outdoor serving area with alcohol. And this was presented to the Zoning Board of Appeals on April 4th, and it was recommended for approval by a vote of 6 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions. And then on April 11th, the Planning Commission heard this petition, and they recommended approval by a vote of 5 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions. The petitioner has also requested for a suspension of the rules, and in reviewing this application, staff is in line with the Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Commission's recommendations. Staff is recommending approval of this ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a motion to move this ordinance forward?
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Monroe.
Motion to suspend the rules.
I'll second that.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Monroe for suspension of the rules. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the suspension only?
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
And Simmons. The motion passes 7-0.
So now before you, council, is the final reading for this ordinance. Is there discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
And Simmons. The ordinance passes 7-0.
Item number 14 is the first reading of Ordinance 2024-25. Could you please read this?
Ordinance granting special use application at 109 South Galena Avenue, Freeport, submitted by This Is It Eatery to examine the special use of an M2 general manufacturing zone property to allow restaurants, taverns, packaged liquor stores, and any other establishment selling alcoholic beverages for consumption on or off the premises pursuant to Section 1252.01B11.
Thank you. Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a situation where This Is It Eatery, many of you know they were previously located at 1416 North Chicago, and they need to move locations. That their lease had ended, and they're moving locations to where Bourbon's on Main used to be, which is 109 South Galena. So, again, this is a situation where This Is It Eatery wants to operate in a space that was once a bar and restaurant, and our ordinance requires that when a restaurant does so, they need to apply for a special use permit before they can have their liquor license at the new location. And so staff reviewed this permit application and presented it to the Zoning Board of Appeals on April 4th, and it was recommended for approval by a vote of 6 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions. And then staff presented this to the Planning Commission on April 11th, and it was recommended for approval by a vote of 5 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions. The proprietor has requested a suspension of the rules, and in reviewing this application, staff recommends approval of the ordinance in line with the Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Commission's recommendations.
Is there a motion to move forward?
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers.
Motion to suspend the rules?
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers to suspend the rules, and again, suspension of the rules is non-debatable and must pass by 2/3 majority. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on that only?
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons? The suspension passes 7-0.
So now before you, council, is the final passage of this ordinance. Is there discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
And Simmons.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 7-0 as well.
And item number 15 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-48. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving a certificate of authority to vote, which is required for the state bid for a rock salt contract joint participation agreement.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Each year, the city bids on road salt for snow removal and ice melt. This year, there's a new step in the process. The state of Illinois has made a procedural modification for municipalities to be included in the rock salt program. So staff is recommending the city council move to approve the joint participation agreement so the city of Freeport can bid on state salt contracts.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion. Seeing none, Alderman Sanders.
Mr. Duckman, you said it would be something that we're pursuing on a rock salt contract. That is that something that we use on a annual basis?
Yeah, that's correct. So this would be road salt for snow melt. Each year we bid, or we basically enter a contract with the state for the amount that we typically use. And this is a new step they've added in the process. We just need to approve this. I'm not sure if they've had some issues on their end, but it's a new step in the process. We just need to move forward on, and then we'll come back to council when we go bid the actual salt contract.
Well, the reason why I asked that question, wanting to know if there's any other material that has been represented to the city of Freeport or any other city for different type of material that does not become a hazard to roads, especially to new roads that are being applied to your city. I don't know.
Just to answer that, there's no other alternative besides sand, and the problem with sand is it fills up our stormwater inlets and clogs them up. So we use salt.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry. Alderman Monroe.
City Manager, a couple questions. First question, who has investigative authority over who gets the contract for this salt?
I would imagine that's the state.
Because this, and basically, I see the state getting involved here. There's no regulatory, I mean, salt's salt. My question really then becomes, they're gonna go out to a state bid, and we've already seen how some of those have gone in recent months. Some of the bids that have been passed out, there's now federal investigations against several state-level employees. I've got real concerns about other people getting involved in this and taking our money, and we have to then buy from that person instead of getting the best bid that's potentially possible.
Alderman Monroe, all this does is give us the option to bid on the state bid salt contract. That's all. We're not bidding on the salt right here. We are just, they're requiring us to do a next step, which is a procedural modification. And it's new this year. So we just need to move forward with this resolution so that we could potentially bid on the state salt contract.
What is, so explain procedural, what was the word you used?
It's a mod.
Spoke to the person, if you'd like me.
Actually, Attorney Zito would like to answer that.
Okay. I spoke to a representative at the state, and apparently entities were, in the past, you just clicked, are you allowed to submit, are you able to enter this agreement? Yes or no. Entities were clicking on yes that were not municipalities and did not have authority. So this is belt and suspenders, so that the council says the city, and it'll be Manager Boyer, you're giving him the authority to click that yes button because people have abused that.
Okay.
Yes, that's the same understanding that I had.
Well, if there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
And Simmons. The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Item number 16 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-49. Could you please read this?
Resolution authorizing purchase of water meters interface units, which are also called MIUs, from Ferguson Waterworks.
Thank you, Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Without getting into too much back history, when we originally put in the collector system and the meter interface units, they started to die off at about, I want to say, somewhere about 30 to 60 per month starting in 2019. Staff negotiated with Ferguson and also Neptune to replace the failed meter interface units at a lower cost than their typical price. We were able to acquire them for $72.50 each. That's less. I think they're about $120 is their normal list price. So at the time in 2022, we moved forward with purchasing half of the R900s, which are the new style MIUs, to replace the old R450s, which were starting to die off. So at this time, the city has purchased 5,500, and we've got a couple thousand left to install, but we're still seeing them dying off quickly, and we need to go ahead and purchase the remaining meters or meter interface units required to finish the project. So in order to complete the project, we would the total cost of the units that will be remaining is about $398,750, and staff plans to pay for that through water fund reserves. Previously, we had financed the first batch, and that is no longer necessary. So staff recommends moving forward with the purchase of the second batch of MIU to replace the aging R450s.
Is there a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion. Alderman Sanders?
Yeah. Define to us when you say die off. They're dying off rapidly, or have they all died off to the point where we just have to go get this big batch? And then what happens to the ones that have not died off? Do they stay in circulation until that time comes, or we're just buying extra parts in the event that these things are doing what they're doing? Is that what we're preparing for the finalizing of the die-off?
That's correct. We're essentially transitioning the system away from the R450s and moving to R900s. They use a different radio frequency, and as part of this agreement with Neptune, they've supplied us with all the antennas to read those R900s, and they've also been installed at all of our locations. And we're getting close to being about halfway through the replacement program of the older R450s. One other addition to that is the older R450 collectors. Those antennas that are mounted to the water tower in the higher spots are also very expensive to replace at this time. So that's another reason to move to the R900s, because they use a currently serviceable antenna that can be replaced at a reasonable price.
Is that an interface for that the city used to regulate and to determine what is going on with our new R, whatever you call that? And does that become an expense to the citizens of Freeport? Is that a city program, or is it the citizens program?
Well, the actual meter interface units, what they do is they report the meter read to our computers here at City Hall multiple times a day. And so in 2012, when the program was initially installed, it was in an effort to reduce the amount of manpower and so forth that was required to actually go to each physical meter and read them every month. So we can't change that decision that was made then, but we did do our best to negotiate down the price of the MIUs, indicating to Neptune that they had installed equipment that, essentially we're told at that time would last longer than 10 years. So, but these are failing because the batteries are going dead, and they're dying off quicker than the people in 2012 had anticipated.
So the citizens of Freeport, that's an expense to the taxpayers?
It is not an expense to the taxpayers, it's an expense to the utility ratepayers.
Okay, okay.
We have several that want to speak at. Alderman Sellers.
This also is going to give out a better readout on your bill also, correct? Because I know earlier this summer, there was a lady that had a problem. She had a defective one, and it changed her water bill from what she had. So this right here is making them all up to date and giving out better read.
Yes, that's correct. She had an R450 that had failed, and we don't replace them over the winter time because of the fact that the siding is cold on the side of the house and it represents potential damage to the property. So we wait till the weather is suitable for the replacement program. But as the ones die off in the field that haven't already been replaced, we end up with these situations like you're referring to, where you have a billing customer getting an estimated bill for a period of months, and then when the MIU is replaced, then it has an abrupt change to their bill, and they have to account for the water that wasn't estimated.
Alderman Stacy, did you have something yet?
I did. What other company besides Ferguson did we check out cost-wise?
Actually, we looked at several. The cost impact was much higher to go with a different vendor because it would not work with all of the proprietary billing software that comes with the meter program. In addition to that, we would have to replace all of them and replace the receiver antennas, like at the water tower and at the various high places around town where these report. So in lieu of replacing all of the MIUs with a new manufacturer, we negotiated the price down with Neptune from, I believe they were about 120, maybe a little higher than that a piece, and we negotiated that down to $72 a piece, so there's substantial savings, and they also provided us the collectors. They didn't want to lose Freeport as a customer. However, the actual cost of the equipment, we are paying for some minimal costs related to that.
What about their,
Go ahead, I didn't realize you had to follow.
what about their not giving the years of service that we were told, we were guaranteed?
In 2012, they were told they would last up to 20 years, and they had a warranty. But the warranty started prorating after 10 years, and the way the proration schedule worked, the MIUs actually became more expensive starting at the list price than they were having. So it was kind of a strange situation, but we're in a kind of a proprietary situation unless we're willing to change out all the technology at high cost. This was a good option to allow us to transition with our existing system. It's not the best case scenario. It's just the best it's the best we could do with what we had.
So we're just screwed.
Darren, did you want to comment on that?
So, part of the price negotiation for the MIU reduction was based on the prorated years that were left on the contract. That's how we got these reduced down in cost. So they did give us a proration for the, let's say, 8 years that's left on the original installations. That's how we were able to reduce the cost down on these. Rob is certainly correct, and it would any other direction that we went, which Rob had us chase it in multiple ways, was going to cost the city a lot more money than the change out of the MIU alone. There's nothing wrong with the meters that are installed within the homes. It's a good platform. They're American made. It just happens to be that the battery life that's in the MIU, which is a sealed unit, right? It's the part that goes on the outside of your house is a sealed unit. So it gets replaced in whole. And that change takes 10 minutes to do, and we don't have to go in the homes to do it. So it was planned that those MIUs would have to be changed out around 20 years. And so the proration of what we're paying is the credit that came back to these. So again, we use Neptune software for billing. That's how our accounting department does it. That software package alone would be an immense cost to replace that couldn't even be borne by this project. So the good news is we got a prorated discount, and we should be putting in MIUs that should last for 15 to 20 years. It's not a perfect cycle. It depends on how often they read and how many times they don't report or they miss a report. It's just like your cell phone that sits there and thinks if it can't report, it keeps sending the signal. So,
But it's just the replacement of a battery?
it's the replacement of the sealed pack that goes on the outside of your home that is kind of like a wireless antenna that sends it to the collector.
Alderman Clem?
I think everything's pretty well been said, but I called Michelle this morning and talked about this, and one of the situations here is when the first batch was purchased, they were purchased outright simply because of the amount of interest rate at that time. Now with the interest rates being up and with the money in the fund, it can come out of there, and that they'll also keep inventory so that they can buy the meters individually. They aren't buying 5,500 at a time, so it's advantageous. And to explain it a little more, Ferguson is nothing more than the plumbing wholesaler for Neptune, and we're buying it wholesale from from Ferguson, which is a reputable company and has been in business and supported us and supplied many of the things at no cost starting out. So.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
And Simmons.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Item number 17 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-50. Could you please read this?
Resolution authorizing and approving an agreement with Opportunity Space doing business as Talimi for rental property registration software. Do you know how to pronounce that correctly?
I believe it's Ptolemy.
Ptolemy.
Okay, thank you. Director Sutman?
Thank you. I'm just going to kind of go from the memo that was sent out with the packet. For the background, this is our second or third try at the rental registration software-wise, depending on how you count it. We've tried it with staff, we tried it through software, a combination of each. Currently, we have a system, we use iWork, but I believe the requirement we weren't able to hit with that was the ability to register multiple properties all at once, and a few other little things. But we're looking at this one. As far as the discussion, we checked out their Ptolemy's platform. It seems to do everything we wanted to do and understand that is required of the system. It uses less staff time than other ones. Many years ago, before some of us were here, we basically had 1.5 employees run the program because they were manually doing things the software could not. So we'd see a savings there. It's our understanding that landlords can request and register their properties in that kind of chunk or more quickly than with the current system. And it can make the alerts that they've requested as far as if the police are being deployed to their property. I do want to point out in the financial portion of the memo, I put 20,000. The first year is actually 25,000. That was my error. That did not include the integration. But that is going to be coming from the Community Development Department, at least for the first year, and this is a 1-year agreement. And staff's recommendation is to go forward. Any questions?
Actually, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Clem. Discussion on this resolution. Alderman Sellers, apologize.
Listening to one of the ladies speaking and saying that they wish they would have been able to look at this program and see how it works and get a better understanding so that, maybe city manager or Kirk or whatever won't keep getting a bunch of questions from it. Is there a possibility where they can have a meeting with the landlords or the people or whoever wants to see how the program works so everybody can be on the same page and get a better understanding instead of we know how it works but they don't?
Yeah, I not to speak for the people that told me, but I would assume we could get maybe in a big training session for a group of landlords if they'd like.
Alderman Stacy?
Yes. One of the questions the constituents had was what makes it better than the other two, and why are we not working with landlords?
My understanding is we took some requirements they brought to us either years ago or not too long ago, and that's where some of this came from. The first system we had missed the requirement, which I think was an access database I built a decade ago, that it wasn't online. So they had to fill out paper forms, bring them in, we had to type them in. It was a huge man-hour waste of time. Our second one I think was called Crime Free, that did have some of that online ability to, register online. But I don't remember that one. I think maybe it was the payment system or something like that was missing. So we moved on to the iWork, what we use now. But again, my understanding is they have to click one at a time through all the properties. So if you have many properties, it's not convenient.
So has it been reviewed by each involved department?
Do you want to?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Alderperson Stacy. I did want to add a few items here. Yes, there was a presentation made to multiple departments in response to some of the concerns that we've heard today. I know that we have met. I was personally involved in at least one meeting, and I believe it was I know it was multiple meetings about rental registration. So I know several council members here are concerned about a rental registration. And this software, as well as the Realtors Association, is concerned about rental registration. And so a good way to look at this is that staff has recognized the needs of multiple parties, meaning council members, meaning the Realtors Association. So we're hearing both sides, and staff is looking at it and saying, how can we be effective in government? How can we be efficient in government? And how can we meet these needs? And this is a tool to make our rental registration better. So our ordinance exists, has a rental registration, and this is going to be a software or tool that's going to be able to make specifically my department more efficient and effective in implementing this rental registration.
Okay. Your word was multiple departments.
Yes.
Okay. So is that different than what they're asking for each involved department?
I think what they were asking is, how is this going to work with other departments? So one way to answer that would be, this particular software has already integrated with 4,500 individual softwares. So what that means, and then to get more specific, we talked with their Ptolemy and we asked their representation. We said, here's the software we have for water and billing. Here's the software we have for community development. Here's the software for police, for fire. You know, we said specifically, and they said, yes, we've integrated these software multiple times. So I believe that answers that question, but I can talk a little more on it if you have another specific question on that.
Alderman Clem?
Who else uses this software?
Well, like City of Rockford does use it, and we had a list. I believe there's 120 communities that use it, and they gave us the full list. But specifically, close by would be the City of Rockford.
Alderman Stacy?
And I think it was a comment made that the police portion doesn't work.
I did want to address that, and I know Chief Schemberger can also probably echo this. There is, and Chief Schemberger mentioned this, there is a state law that's coming out right now that would essentially limit. Chief Schemberger, do you want to talk to that?
Sure. There's a House bill that's pending passing right now where that it may affect at least what we could report on our end. So
we mentioned that, and I can say that I get that, and I don't want to speak for Chief Schemberger, but what I will say is that I can't speak to their issues that they've had. But what I will say is this, that, and I had talked with Ptolemy's representatives and said, you know, before we roll this out, this platform out, would we have the ability to review it with the police department, fire department, every department involved? And would we be able to have a legal review to make sure that it met any requirements from a House bill, et cetera? And their answer was yes, we would be able to do so. And I would also add that this is an annual license and an annual use fee of $20,000. And let's say, for instance, city staff was using it and went through it and we said, this doesn't work, we don't like it. It's not using the police notifications correctly. It's not utilizing fire notifications, or, you know, community development doesn't, just, it's not functional. We would have the ability to not use it in the next year.
You have a follow-up?
Yes. Is it out of order to ask the two ladies that spoke if their questions have been answered?
Yeah, I don't think that, unless the council wants to suspend that, it's out of order.
Well, after the ladies spoke about the liquor.
So we just make a motion to suspend the rules again?
No, that would not be suspending.
If the council wanted to make a motion to allow one of the previous speakers to address the council, they could do that, motion second, and if the council votes to allow the speaker to answer that question, then you guys
I
can
would like to make that motion that if one of the speakers' questions have not been answered and they would like to address the council, that is allowed to happen.
Second.
So we have a motion on the floor made by Alderman Stacy, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on allowing public comment to step forward?
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle? Aye. Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem? Aye. Monroe?
Aye.
And Simmons?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
So Ashley, did you want to step up, or Jilly?
So the answer to my answer to that question would be yes, they have answered the questions that we had. However, does it go as far as allowing for us to view the program before the purchase is made? No, but I also can tell you that Rockford housing providers were not provided the opportunity prior to the purchase. They were provided the opportunity after the purchase, but before the complete rollout to the housing providers on what it looked like and how it was represented. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying that they were not provided the opportunity prior. We're not asking for the prior. We're asking for the opportunity to look at it to see how it will work for us as well.
Alderman Sanders.
Yeah, that is kind of, I'm gonna say that's kind of crazy, using my perspective on that. How do you spend that kind of money on something you have not have interviewed or evaluated to make a determination? Does it fit your company or your city or your municipality? How do you, how could one go through that not knowing process? Yeah.
Well, actually, the city does know
The not
that
knowing
they've done it.
is us. You just heard
Okay.
Duckman tell you that they've asked about all of your integration on your backside. And if you're telling me that works, we're happy with that decision on knowing that it works. For one of the gentlemen from the Rockford, they've told me they can see the code violations, the things are coming through. The only negative was the police, and I also understand that.
Yeah, even from that, from looking at it from that viewpoint, it still needs to be evaluated from various locations, because if the system breaks down, and we have started this whole new practice, and it breaks down and we're not happy with it, then it becomes a problem altogether. And how do we reestablish, constitute our old establishment ways if we have already, went through the process of trying to get it filtered in?
Thank you, Ashley, for putting that in. Alderman Clem, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, but no.
Okay. Alderman Monroe, did you? Okay. I knew there was somebody on that side.
No, I'll pass is what I'm saying.
Alderman Monroe?
I'll try not to drop it.
Yeah.
No, I think you bring up some good points. I'm concerned too, with the police integration piece of it, the rules changes, all of that. I think one of the most important pieces of this is to try and understand where we have problem rental properties and problem landlords. And that's the big concern. And if we're limited in that aspect, I'm glad that this is a software as a service as opposed to an outright huge monetary investment up front. Because quite honestly, if we get limited by the state, we might just want to throw our hands in the air and say it's not going to work, and we're not out any more money than the money we've spent. 4 times since 2000 we've kind of changed. Maybe 96. I went back and was looking because I know at least once it came up early on in my term, what we were doing. And then 2015, and then there was it goes back. We've tried a lot of different ways. We've thrown a lot of money at this to try and figure it out. I think from this standpoint, this seems like the most reasonable possibility for us. If it's working for Rockford, why not use something that's close by that we can ask questions of people that are close, who we've got relationships with. Maybe even some of our staff could make a trip to Rockford and see how they're utilizing it, that type of a thing as well. It's a low-cost option. I actually am very happy that you guys have researched and found something that's being used in a community near us. I think that's one of our biggest complaints, is that we kind of go it alone a little too often sometimes. My concern is did we ask on these integrations what the cost would be to integrate each of these software platforms, and is that included in the 20,000?
Yes, I
25,
want to state this. There's a $5,000 implementation that's to get started, and that's common with any program. And they told us that the $20,000 as it moves forward is going to be, that integration is part of it, as well as training, questions we have to ask them. This doesn't work. Can we make it look like this? That is all going to be part of it that we've been told.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
Okay. based upon what you just said, Wayne, there's a $5,000 implementation fee, okay? What if we get this in and we see it doesn't work? It doesn't do what they say. My question is, do we have any recourse?
I would say that, in my opinion, a software like this and in the implementation process, I think the 1 year is the amount of time that would allow us to say yes or no. And I think the reason I say that is because it's going to take, I believe he said, 1 to 3 months to implement it completely. So the first part of this is going to be implementing pure rental registration. That's the number one priority. And then they're going to start layering on top of these other, connecting with the fire department, connecting with the police department, connecting with water and sewer. And so my point is, by the time you have full implementation, staff time to say, can you add this, can you change this, can you make this look differently? And I think 1 year is that time where staff truly has the time to say this is a good product or no, it should be scrapped. So that's my opinion on that. And I mean, we could probably change the contract to say we can scrap it completely after 6 months, but I think 1 year is a fair and reasonable time to get this program the way you want it to look.
Alderman Sanders.
And if that occurs, will the city be out of any expenses for their participating in trying to implement this?
Yes, the $5,000 is the initial.
So that's not refundable.
That's non-refundable, and after that $5,000, then we would be looking at a product that costs $20,000 annually, and then during that time period and moving forward, we would have the opportunity to say, okay, yes, this looks good, no, this doesn't, and the point that I was saying was, in 1 year, that's a proper amount of time to look at a software, work with it, say, yes, we like this, no, we don't, and at that 1 year, yes, we would be out $25,000. I want to bring up another point here. Right now, the way that rental registration works is I take 2 staff members who sit with paper copies and manually run through a list to try to make that rental registration look good. And there's an opportunity cost there where those are inspectors who are not out in the field collecting code violations, nuisance violations. This software integrates all of these departments we have and allows us to say, okay, here's the code violation, and in the one platform, it can notify water violations, past due water bills, et cetera. It's one platform that doesn't change, but it looks into the different programs we have throughout the city and puts it into one spot. So that's kind of my point on that, is I think 1 year is a good amount of time to really run through a system, and if it doesn't work, then we don't do it in the following year.
Yeah, but wouldn't we be suspended in the balance of a product that's not working, and we don't have a product to run in the system?
No, so I do want to clarify that. All the department's systems, including community and economic development, are still going to be operating. Okay. And what's great about this software, and it's common in the software field, is you have many independent softwares that work well, and there is a new field of saying, let's create a platform that can actually read all the different software so that they don't have to change, but you can go to one place and all that information is integrated.
Okay.
There. So we're not changing individual department software at all. It's just a platform that can draw the data into one place so you can see it all in one location.
Darren, did you want to?
I just did some quick math, so I believe we have about 3,000 landlords, we believe, in town. So that's an investment of about $8.33 per landlord for the first year, and then about $6.30 the year after in the software program. So I just wanted to throw out some facts. Divided by how many landlords that we have in our current platform, divided by, I believe there's somewhere around 11,500 homes and businesses here in town. It seems like a reasonable cost to get the program started.
Director, something that you want to add? No, you're good? Got it. Okay. Alderman Stacy, did you have your hand up?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, if there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Stacy?
Yes.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
And Simmons. I'm sorry, that was an aye, correct?
Sorry, aye, yeah.
The resolution is adopted, 7-0.
Madam
Item
Mayor,
number 18, I'm sorry.
could I just say, thank you for the extra explanations and everything on it, so everybody knew where we were at. I appreciate that. And thank you guys for your comments, and I appreciate your input, because it's going to be very valuable moving forward for us to work together on this. Thank you.
Sure.
Can I say something really quick? I just also want to know that when they do have the meeting with the landlords to show them how the presentation or how it works, I like the council, I would like to see how it runs, so.
We'll move on to item number 18, which is the adoption of Resolution 2024-51. Could you please read this?
Resolution accepting a grant from the Office of the Illinois State Fire Marshal Small Equipment Grant Program and approving a grant agreement.
Thank you. Chief Miller?
Thank you, Your Honor. Before you tonight is a request to accept a grant award from the Office of the State Fire Marshal for the sum of $25,000. Last December, we identified the need to start thinking about how we're going to replace our air compressor and fill station that fills our air tanks, the bottles that we wear on our backs. So my memo that I quickly generated indicated that existing compressor is 20 years old. Once I saw the paperwork on it, it's actually 24 years old. And our issue was coming back from this fire, trying to fill several bottles that were waiting to go back in service. Our existing compressor was just not keeping up. So the deputy chief and myself, we had a conversation. How are we going to fund this? We need to seek a revenue source for this. So only a few days later, the state fire marshal's grant was going to close. I said, hey, let's submit for that. So he's quite adept at filling out grant applications, and so he did. And Friday, late in the morning, we were notified that we were awarded the full amount, that the maximum the state fire marshal will offer, $25,000. So once again, he did an outstanding job generating that grant request. So we do recognize that that's just a portion of what this new piece of equipment will cost. And this grant is time sensitive in terms of its acceptance, and it's also time sensitive in terms of the purchase. And it's very specific for the type of compressor and fill station we'll be asking for. So tonight, we're asking for acceptance, and then 3 weeks from now, the next city council meeting, I'll come to you requesting a resolution for purchase. I'll have an opportunity to share with you more details about that purchase, the funding source, and what it is we're asking to purchase.
Thank you, Chief. Is there a motion to adopt?
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
And Simmons.
Aye.
That resolution is adopted, 7-0.
And item number 19 is approval of bids. Could you please read this?
There was a bid opening on April 10th for MFT number 24-00000-01-GM, various streets for HMA material only, hot mix asphalt, HMA.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. So each year, the city goes out for bid on materials for projects that we do in-house. So this is, this year, we're asking for 15,000 tons of hot mix asphalt. We conducted a bid opening. I believe we received 2 bids. Helm Group was the winning bid at $63.90 a ton and delivered, which is actually a very good price. So these are the materials that our city crews will use to repave all the construction projects that we have scheduled for this year. So staff recommends moving forward with this resolution.
Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the bid? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Simmons. Discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle,
Abstain.
Sanders,
Abstain.
Sellers is absent at the moment. Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
and Simmons.
Aye.
I have 4 in favor, none against, 2 abstention. I need the mayor, so I can have 4.
Do we stall or Joy?
What's your pleasure, Mayor? You wanna
Aye.
Okay. So I have 5 in favor, and the motion passes.
Move on to item number 20, which is the approval of bids. Could you please read this one?
There was a bid opening on April 10th at 10:30 for window and sash painting at City Hall.
Thank you, Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. So the city is looking at doing some upgrades and refurb and maintenance on City Hall itself. One of the pressing issues is the current condition of the window sashes and the peeling paint on the wood. So we went out for bids, but because it's a historic building, we only had one bidder that was willing to bid that, and that's not unusual based upon the fact that it is a historic structure. The bid came from NICAM of Freeport in the amount of $166,098. This project was anticipated in the 2024 budget, and staff recommends City Council move forward with NICAM Construction as the parent low bidder.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion? Alderman Stacy?
So are you saying that we budgeted $166,000?
Actually, more than that. Michelle, do you remember what the total number was? I'm sorry to. We budgeted over that amount. It's an older building, and we have to budget a certain amount for maintenance. So we've already actually carried out some maintenance here already. We were anticipating doing tuck pointing, but the windows are actually a higher priority. So we're asking to have the sashes redone and repainted, and there is some lead paint that needs remediation, so that's driving some of the costs.
Did we ever finish the basement?
The basement?
Yeah.
Yes.
Darren?
Yeah, this is more than just painting too. It's replacing all the sills on the building. This is a historic structure, and it took us a very long time to be able to get permits from the state to be able to do this work. The sills on the outside are rotten, and you basically can put a screwdriver through them, and so they need to be replaced at this time. And we also sent paint samples out, and all the windows have lead paint on them that were painted over before, so that has to be addressed due to our historic value of the building, which drove the cost up.
Drove the cost up, but yet still by the memo, it's $36,000 less than what you anticipated, correct?
I believe it's 36,000 more than I anticipated because of the lead.
Okay.
Well,
Alderman Sanders?
Okay. Will this be contracted out? It'll be contracted out?
Yes, this is contracted out to NICAM of Freeport.
Okay.
Seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
and Simmons.
We have money for what we want.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Item number 21 is another approval of a bid. Could you please read this?
This bid opening was on April 10th at 11 for pest control contract for City Hall, Police Station, Central Fire Station, and the library.
Manager Boyer?
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, we did a request for bid for pest control for 3 years. We received 5 bids, one of which the lowest bid was incompetent from failed its references, so we went to the next lowest bid, which was Rose Pest Solutions in Rockford of the amount of $20,820. And staff request moving forward with the Rose Pest Control Solutions bid for pest control for city buildings.
Is there a motion to approve the bid?
So moved.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion? Madam Clerk? Oh,
What are we dealing with? Pests? What are we dealing?
It's primarily, spraying for bugs and that type of thing.
And they come out how often?
I believe once a month.
Yeah, it's monthly for all of our facilities, and then exterior is also done. Especially fire, police, and city hall have a lot of different individuals in every day within our facilities, so we need to make sure that, lice, bed bugs, things like that are treated for, as well as just your regular pests in nature. One of the things that wasn't in here is this is a 3-year price, so it's divided by 3. We did a 3-year bid to try to reduce some of the cost on this program.
thank you.
And we were budgeted for this as well?
That's correct.
Alderman Monroe?
I'm not sure who this question's for, but I'll leave this out there. So when we do our due diligence to check on the quality, it sounds like as we did discount one of the bids, how many people do we reach out to and see the quality of the work?
So I called all the references on the low bid, and I did not get one quality response back. As a matter of fact, one of the references hadn't worked there for 7 years.
Follow it, Mayor. I'm not sure how to phrase this.
I'd also tell you that the second low bidder was the incumbent who has done the work for the last 2 years.
I guess the follow-up would be, how do we feel that work, do we feel like it did a good job?
Ruth, the executive assistant, monitors that work, and she's been very happy with them. We had a billing, I don't want to say an issue, but we would like them to bill differently. Currently, they bill one bill to her for all the departments. Moving forward, we'd like the billing to be broke out by department instead. It would be better for her than getting all these billings, and so they've agreed to do that as part of this bid process. Save us some internal time.
Just one comment. If Ruth's happy, I guess, I'm happy for that. But from my standpoint, having worked with them in the past, I've not had the same experience. That's the only reason I bring that up. So,
like I said, they've been the incumbent for the last 2 years. I can't speak before that, and I did ask the question if staff was happy with them, and it seems like we really haven't had any issues, and we did have some. We personally, as a city, had some issues that they dealt with very well, and seemed like we had good luck with them.
Okay. Thank you.
You monitor that they come every month? Who monitors them?
Yeah, especially like the fire department, the police department, they have to be checked in to get into the facilities. They don't just have free reign of them, so we know that they come and do the pest control. They need to check in with somebody at each facility.
No. My question was, who's monitoring them to know that they are coming once a month?
The facility managers, because they give us a report on every time they come, and so those bills have to be approved by Ashley and both chiefs and City Hall, so they have to check in when they do their services, so we know they're here.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
No.
And Simmons. The motion passes 6-1.
Item number 22 is the Social Justice Committee quarterly update by Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Social Justice Committee recommended measuring a number of metrics to assess the city's progress in diversity, equity, and inclusion within the city government. In the first quarter of 2024, we continued to recruit for open positions across all departments. The police department currently has 7 officer openings. The fire department has 1, and other departments are currently short 12 employees. The police department, the female workforce represents at this time 33.5% of the department's employees, and the minority workforce accounts for 17.4%. Both female workforce numbers decreased by 1% for based on the 2023 baseline, and the minority workforce numbers increased by 2% as compared with the 2023 baseline. Fire department, there's been no change in the representation of female minority employees. Female employees make up 6.6% of the workforce, consistent with the 2023 baseline numbers, while minority representation remains at 0. Our objective for both departments is to increase female minority employment by 5% each year. Recruitment efforts include partnerships with community leaders, clergy, and advertisements across various media, including targeted Facebook ads. Minority employees increased by 1% as compared with the 2023 baseline in other departments. Female employees make up 40% of the workforce in non-police and fire departments, a steady figure. The non-public safety minority workforce now comprises 13% of the employees, an increase of approximately 1%. Overall, we have 59 female and 22 minority employees out of the total workforce of 188. Equating to 30.8% female and 11.7% minority representation, 1% increase over the 2023 baseline. Looking at our last quarter ending December 31st, 2023, the following changes were observed. We had the reduction of 1 female employee in the police department. We had the addition of 1 minority employee in the police department for a total of 63. That's 1 down from 2023 December. In the fire department, we have 3 female employees, 0 minority employees, and a total employee count of 45, and that is down 1. Other departments, female employees, we had no change in female employees. Minority employees, we had the increase of 1 minority, and overall we had an increase of 3 total employees in other departments. So in all departments, we had the reduction of 1 female employee, we had the increase of 2 minority employees, and with a combined total of 1 additional employee citywide. So in the police department, we observed a decrease of 1 female position in the first quarter of 2024 compared with the base year of December 31st, 2023. The fire department saw no changes, and other departments experienced an increase of 1 minority position in the first quarter of 2024 as compared with the base year. In addition, on minority recruitment, police minority employment increased by 1 position. No change in minority employment was noted in the fire department. And during outreach and inspections, city staff attended the Kiwanis Pancake Day, and Chief Schenberger performed several community walk and talks with Ronnie Bush in the first quarter of 2024. Our goal for nuisance and building inspections was 5% increase from the previous year. In first quarter of 2024, community development accomplished 1,266 inspections and is on track with annual goals. We also performed 10 demolitions, 10 house demolitions, and there were no changes on the boards and commissions.
Thank you. Is there questions on updates? Alderman Sanders.
Yes, Mr. Boyer, that memo or that report that you just gave, had that been presented to the council, or has it been reported to the council that we might have a copy of that particular reporting that you just created?
Yes.
Do I have that here?
Yes, you do.
All that you, yeah, you did. I'm looking right at it. All right. Well, anyway, thank you for that reporting. We might have questions in the future coming up. We might also put some items on the agenda to discuss that we might have to discuss in seeing what the overall status is or report is on how we collected it, where it was collected from, and all of these kinds of things, and how do we make this a kind of a quarterly, annually, or whatever kind of update for the council that we might be able to involve ourselves into the whole perspective.
Yeah, you receive a quarterly.
Do we receive
quarterly?
quarterly?
Yeah,
Okay.
so you automatically get that.
Okay.
Alderman Stacy, did you have a question?
Yes. On the second page where it says all other departments, Who is all other departments?
That would be street department, utility department, city hall.
Okay, when are these meetings held?
What
When are
meeting?
these committee meetings held?
This was a recommendation by the Social Justice Committee. I don't know what the status of the Social Justice Committee
It
is. at
doesn't
this time.
exist.
Yeah. But this is just a carryover
Part
recommendation.
of their recommendation from that committee, that it was only, I believe it was a 6-month stand-up, was to continue to keep a monitor on our progress. So that's why he gives you quarterly updates.
And that was back in
It was in 2020.
2020? Okay, yeah.
I just have one question. How can we have 0 minorities on the fire department? I mean, I just want to know if it's, do none apply? Do we, there's no.
Chief Miller, you wanna-
Qualified applicants? I mean, you know, that sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yes, I'm happy to answer that. So this last test that we gave, we actually eliminated the requirement to become an EMT basic prior to application. So we removed that requirement, and we had a greater participation of African-American females, minorities, and we're encouraged with that. We're excited about the turnout, and we had some good candidates. Some of those folks got washed out in the process. We had a black gentleman who did quite well, and honestly, he would have been hired by now. He took himself out of the consideration. He said, for family issues, I no longer wish to proceed, and thank you for initially considering him. We had several other females that went through the process. A few of them washed out. Again, one female, the day of her oral interview, she just didn't show up. We also reached out to them prior to these appointments that they had with the Fire and Police Commission. They were aware of what their time and date was, and some of them just didn't show up. So we're trying real hard. Speaking with Manager Boyer, he and I exchanged some good ideas going forward for this next test. We're going to start initiating recruitment efforts, advertising, and so on. We only have one candidate left on our eligibility list. So we're going to kick off a new recruitment phase very soon.
Follow up?
The question, you know, and I appreciate that. That's why, I mean, it just stands out. So do we have any Hispanics or any?
We had one that applied this last go-around, and he did not make it through the
I
process.
appreciate your input, and you know, certainly you don't want to hire anybody that's not qualified. You know, that's not, but you know, like I think with the numbers on the police department, you would almost think that somebody would apply because your numbers in the police department are, there's quite a few minorities.
Correct.
You know, but that was the only reason I asked the questions.
Sure.
Thank you for.
And those are some of the questions we're asking ourselves as well. How are the police doing things differently for their recruitment standpoint? And our last exam, we advertised and recruited in over 28 different methods and modes of recruitment and advertising. And so we're looking to expound upon that as well, even increase that even further.
Okay, so appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Alderman Sanders?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, with the promotion, the promotional part of it, recruitment and things like those are great things to add to the community when they are able to respond or to see this kind of recruitment effort by our police department and our fire department and any other department. It's good to see and hear that, but are we really putting creating a population for minorities to seek after any of these jobs? Are we creating a population to recruit for these jobs or any job, as far as that matters, with the with minorities? I don't hear a population, I just hear stagnates, few here, few there, that may have came in. And I know you're talking about changing that method by doing recruitment, but I'd like to know, what is your method going forward on how we're going to establish recruitment efforts for young minorities or minorities that should be qualified, or if qualified, to go forward in signing up an application. Now, one of the reportings that you stipulated that someone pulled out, I heard that months ago. I heard that statement months ago about a recruitment pulled out because of circumstances and things like that. That doesn't tell me that there's more coming behind that effort, and I don't know how resilient we're being in these departments in recruiting. And so we have to probably change our efforts, our program, in order to do these things. And I think that's what you were mentioning and you was referring to. And I think I like to see, those things happen in the community with, by all regards.
Manager Boyer, did you want to have some input on that?
Yes, Alderman Sanders, I just want to say that the chief and I'll be working closely to get some advancement on these numbers. So I just want to reassure you that we are going to be moving forward on that.
Alderman Stacy?
Mayor,
Chief, go ahead.
thank you. Maybe just to clear this up, our eligibility list lasts 2 years. So when we gave our last test, which was last year, typically we would hope that we'd have enough successful applicants to be on that list for 2 years, but because of people leaving, going to other departments, catching up with our staffing, 'cause it's been greatly diminished over the years. We're rapidly going through that list. So once again, that list is good for 2 years, but this next test that we're giving, we're looking to enhance our outreach to the community. We've eliminated the need for EMT basics, so that makes it open to a whole lot more people. We had some candidates and applicants come to us and go through the process. To answer your question, no, we're not going to change the requirement for the written exam, but that whole standard and platform is open to everybody now. You no longer have to have specialty education in EMT, emergency medical technician. So we have agreed to hire anybody off the street that passes our standards and educate and train them to be useful on the job. We're finding it difficult for applicants that want to do fire service work. People don't want to do ambulance responses. People don't want to run into burning buildings. So we're a unique employment opportunity, and if those folks are really interested in doing that, they come and apply and they successfully pass it. So we're seeing that a lot of people don't want to do our line of work anymore. Same with volunteer departments neighboring us. They don't have people enough to answer their own calls. So this is not only a Freeport situation, this is a regional-wide, statewide, nationwide situation. So we're working as hard as we can to try to bridge that gap.
Alderman Monroe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think one of the things that might be missing, and I think, in my opinion, we've started doing that with like the street department and starting younger. And I think we have to start younger. We have to start looking at it. I know the Air Force made many years ago, made a concerted effort to, talk about the technology and video gaming and all of those types of things. You have to make it attractive to get people in there. It's not always running into a burning building. It's helping people out. It's helping community. And I think that goes across all different classes of people. I look at, my time in the military. It's all of us the same. We were brothers and sisters that served together, came from all walks of life, and participated. One of the things that really I took from that, a lot of people that were in the military put service, to the community, to their nation, whatever it may be, came from an athletic background. I think really looking at some of the sports, Little League baseball's been way down over years. I think even high school participation's been way down. So how do we get kids back into this? And making people that want to come and serve their community. And I think it's got to start younger. I think we're almost starting too late to go after the targets. We have to start basically teaching the young generation that, hey, this is a valid service. I think you have to talk about the retirement pensions. I think you have to talk about the cool factors. It's not always, you run into one burning building a month on average. From the fire, most of your calls are car wrecks or somebody down, heart attacks, those types of things. And but at the end of the day, you're helping families out. And I think the police department has the same thing. It brings, when you help someone, it does bring great pride and great joy to yourself, and it adds value to your life, and I think a lot of that is missed. But I do think we need to look at younger and younger to then kind of bring them up into that mentality. I think the trades are the same thing. You can make a lot of money in the trades right now. Had a conversation earlier with Mr. Duckman about, keeping people on the city, but when it's hard to keep people on the city payroll because they're getting paid to go somewhere else. Fire, police, we have to raise them from with our own community. Otherwise, we train them and they go to another department. They head back to Chicago where they came from. So we have to bring that generation up in our own community, and that's going to take all of us as servant leaders, as community members to do that. But I think we can do that, and that'll increase the numbers as you brought up.
Alderman Stacy?
Yes, I want to make sure I understood. Did you, Chief Miller, say that something was removed from the original testing or requirements that allotted more minorities to qualify?
Yes, so, excuse me. So our last exam that we gave, prior to that, you, at a minimum, to apply, needed to be emergency medical technician basic. It's like a 12-week class. It's the starting point towards being a paramedic. But to apply, you needed to have that EMT basic. This last exam, we removed that. So anybody that a high school education or a GED could apply. And we made that abundantly clear on our advertising, our hiring, and recruitment efforts. And that increased our applicant pool. I believe our initial applicant pool was at 37. And through the rest of the process with oral interviews and the other examples or the other testing that takes place, that list went down to 17, which historically in recent times is still a good number of applicants on an eligibility list. This generation that we're in right now. So 17 was favorable to us. However, with some of these folks taking themselves out of consideration, there's nothing we can do about that. We were excited to see them initially make the first round of testing and to fail to show up for your oral interview. All that is to gauge your level of interest, to answer a few questions, just to show that you're engaged. These folks didn't even show up.
I just want to say that I don't know details, but I know a few good black men that were firemen, and they were forced out or forced to retire younger than me. And I think that put a hurting on our black community with trusting the system. But I thank you.
Alderman Sanders, did you have something?
Yes, ma'am. Chief, I want to make sure I get this right. The promotional hiring of a description of the job title that we're referring to as fire department hirees or the police department hirees, is there a fear factor formed in the promotional marketing and the risk taking that these particular departments or any department throughout the city, all of them are risks. I don't care if it's construction, water, sewer, whatever the case is. There's a risk factor. Do we try to minimize the fear factor that is associated with these types of jobs, or that they might be so intimidated about what it is that is going on with that department and things like, or any department, as far as that matters?
Yes, so we don't expound upon any particular risks or hazards. We explain what the job consists of, and we cover a lot of the points that Alderman Monroe covered. For example, we attend high school career days. We engage the students. We have little props that they can utilize, work with, identify with, and we even make it fun. Put a little plastic helmet on, and they can use some of our equipment. So we engage the folks that way, being that they're younger. We try to encourage them to want to be in the fire service. Every October, Fire Prevention Month, we engage over 2,000 children, which take our message of fire safety home and share that with their parents and with their siblings, and try to get the word out that fire department does good things. We have tours and open houses, and our guys are putting on their turnout gear and their masks and crawling around with kids, showing them that you shouldn't be scared of us. If you see us in a fire or smoke, come to us. We will take you out of there. We will help you. So we are excited about the profession, the career that we do. We try to impart that to any potential hiring candidate. Our door is open to anybody and all persons that might have an interest in that. Coming up this week, there's a career fest, I believe, at the agricultural location down here. We're also going to participate in the home show this Saturday. So, I mean, we're getting out there. We're spreading our message. We're sharing with the community, with the public, what it is that we do, who we're looking for, and we've taken steps to make that an easier accomplishment for everybody, irregardless of their race.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to item number 23, which is reports of department heads. Finance?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you. Community development?
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Public works?
Yeah, just some project notes. Pearl City Road started today. It's going to be a big undertaking. They're redoing the curve section from Sullivan Drive all the way past Oak Hill. We're asking motorists to avoid this area. We've had quite a few people driving through the road closed sections today. It's creating unsafe environment for the construction people. So please obey the traffic signals. The project is going to take place for probably about 60 to 90 days. Once the curves are redone, the street will be widened about 8 feet, and it will be totally repaved from the roundabout to Park Street. We're also doing some culvert and ditch work to make sure that drainage is appropriate through the section. Bradmar in town is well underway. They're out setting curb stakes today. With the rain that's anticipated this week, I don't know that we'll get pours in this week, but over the next 3 weeks, we anticipate we'll be doing one side of the street with concrete, and then we'll be switching to the other in hopes to be ready for pavement by mid-May. Adams Avenue is well underway as also. They're installing water main and sewer main utilities out there. It is very slow going. We're running into a lot of unidentified utilities under the roadway, so it is going slow, and that project's probably going to extend till the end of this fall in order to complete. EPA approved our change orders for the contaminated soils. We received record of that Friday, so that's great news. Also, the training program with MW Contractors started today, some training at the yards. That should be moving forward later this week, so please keep sending in information on iWorks for potholes. It's important to the crews to be able to get those locations correct. And then finally, just a big reminder, we have a lot of construction going on in Freeport this year, probably more than many years combined. It's all over the city. We have lead service line replacements that are happening. We have at least 4 major road projects going on. We'll have the city crews starting here in May, so it will be a little bit of a war zone. We want to make sure that our staff, the city crews, and the contractors go home every night to their loved ones. So pay attention to the reflective people out in the streets. They're not always watching you, and obey the traffic signals. And we've also asked for some help from the police department to make sure that people are obeying the signs within the construction zones. Thank you.
Thank you. Fire?
Nothing further this evening, Mayor.
Thank you. Police?
Thank you. I have no report tonight.
Thank you. Library?
I just want to make sure that everybody knows the library is closed from 9 to 12 tomorrow for staff training. But we're open 12 to 8.
IT? Communications? And city manager?
Thank you, Your Honor. And Brian kind of tipped my hand. I've got 2 things for tonight. I just wanted to also thank our staff, our dedicated staff, for everything they do. We have got the most aggressive construction season we've had in many years. We are continuing to provide excellent public services throughout the city. We are maintaining our excellent finance process and doing a phenomenal job keeping track of that. Community Development's doing an excellent job with the demos and continuing to see that department track everything they deal with every day. And I just want to thank everyone for that. And in concert, our utility has gone the extra mile, and they have received and will be having an official presentation, the Water Ambassador Award for 2023, and that reflects our commitment to our utility. And lastly, I'd like to introduce our new Communications Director, Brian Bridge, and I'd ask him to come up to the podium and say a few things. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Manager Boyer, and good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. And obviously, I'm new to town, but I won't take up too much of your time. I'm glad to be in front of you tonight, and I look forward to meeting all of you and the rest of our community of Freeport. Thank you.
I just wanted to say welcome, Brian. We're happy to have you part of the team. Alderman Stacy?
I just want to say that last Friday, my night was spent at the library trying to solve a murder. And even though I did not choose the correct person, it was still a nice event to be a part of.
Alderman Shadle?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Alderman Sander?
Nothing, Mayor.
Alderman Sellers?
I would just like everyone, if you have the opportunity, to stop by Fire Station number 2 and look at all the daffodils and tulips that the Boys and Girls Club put in last October. They look absolutely beautiful. So.
Alderman Clem?
I just want to echo, if I can, a little bit what Darren said. Being in the construction trades all my life, there's 2 seasons. There's winter in construction, and now we're in construction. But remember, when they take the barricades away, it's going to be real nice. But please keep in mind the safety factor that Darren mentioned. It's really important, and it's really important going into these areas and knowing what's going on. Chief Miller, thank you very much for the honest and straightforward answers. Always appreciate getting that from you. And the thing I wanted to congratulate you on earlier, I told you about, was the grant that you got on the machine. So thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Alderman Monroe?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of announcements. Neighborhood Watch for 2nd Ward has been moved to Thursday, April 25th. That is at the house of Martha and Roger Carson. The address, I don't have it for some reason in front of me. But if you want details, marthavcarson@aol.com. That is marthavcarson@aol.com. And just a reminder, and this is that time of the year again, don't be afraid to go on our website. We have a great app that will get you, and I just forgot the name of Code Red. Sign up for Code Red, that'll get you alerts, watches, warnings. Also the Sheriff's Department app will do the same thing. But go and sign up because the next 36 hours, late tomorrow afternoon through Wednesday morning, all modes of severe weather are possible in our area.
What?
Alderman Simmons?
No, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Thank you. And public comment, the clerk has something to read in.
This is from Eric Quick. Good evening. Recently, I heard about an ordinance that the city of Beloit, Wisconsin passed to help support the presence of pollinators. It's called No Mow May, and it allows residents to register to participate so that they aren't viewed as being in violation of yard upkeep codes for the month of May, provided they, 1, register with the City of Beloit's Community Development Department by May 1/24, 2, display a city-issued sign in the yard to notify the community that the property is participating in the program, and 3, ensure grass and weeds do not grow longer than 12 inches. Numerous communities across the country are seeing the benefits of implementing pollinator-friendly policies. I believe many Freeport residents would also like a chance to participate in such a thing without fear of being cited for a temporarily out-of-code lawn. I encourage you to look at the Beloit site for their program, as well as the resource links provided on that page. Please consider a similar program for Freeport. He gave a link, https://wi.gov/no-mow-may. Regards, Eric Quick, First Ward.
Are there any other public comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, we were just talking about having police candidates and firemen candidates. I'm wondering if the neighborhood watch meetings, all the aldermen could speak to their people and see if there's any names of people possibly that would be good at police, or they could think of anyone. And also if there's maybe a way to have a vocational program for people that want to go into the police force or law enforcement, lawyers, whatever. Some kind of vocational program. That would probably be something you have to go with Highland or Career Tech or something like that. But those vocational programs are really good for students that are interested in that sort of thing. Just maybe something that'd help.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
I just wanted to come up and clear up some of the worries, concerns that I heard tonight with the potential liquor code. The annual fee was discussed at length with the Liquor Commission and all of the board members or council members here. Unlike restaurants, bars, bowling alleys, we are very limited. You can only have a ticket. You have to be a customer. There's no bars, there's no stools, there's no seating. You cannot get a drink after your show. You have to move on and move out. You also, with this liquor code, if it passes, restricts the theater's possibility of adding anything such as video gaming, the outdoor dining, sidewalk sales, and all of that. So we are not competing with the restaurants or even some of the other entertainment venues like the bowling alley, where you also would bring your family. I do agree, Freeport doesn't have to be like everybody else. I understand that. My rebuttal, and I think you kind of hit on it, is we're trying to keep our customers in Freeport. We're trying to give what they want or what they've been asking, and it's what our other competitors, whether that be another theater, another family entertainment venue, it's what they're doing or already offering. It also, does bring taxes to the town and hopefully keeps our presence in the town with bringing guests and maintaining the amenities it wants. Really, I have 3 children under, 9, 5, and 3, and I have had a drink at a show. I've had a drink at a bowling alley. I've had a drink at a restaurant. It's no different than any other entertainment if you're going to a baseball game or a hockey game or if you're seeing a movie, or if you're sitting at your couch, which is sadly now another competitor with all of the online streaming and availability that we compete with. The proposed code, has plenty of safety measures written into it, but then also we train. So, we have to serve in a different container other than our Classic Cinemas logo, so it's easily recognizable. We only, obviously the 21 Bassett trained, but in addition to the Bassett state training, we also require our own training manual, which I know I gave you guys all a copy of last week, that follows state and then local codes and requirements and what's expected of our staff and the consequences. We make sure our staff is all well aware that we sell alcohol. It's only, the Bassett trained 21 plus. Like I think somebody had mentioned, we have it at 15 theaters. We have never had any altercations, violence. We've never had underage drinking. We have passed every state and
Actually,
local
you've been well exceeded your 3 minutes. Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Tommy?
It's in front, it's in front, it's in front.
I just heard from the Jane Addams Window Center. It's going to close on the 19th and the 18th.
I'm sorry, Tommy, I didn't understand.
Jane Addams Learning Center down there by across there is closing because they don't have the money to run the.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Diane Christen told me that we got a letter from them, from St. Vincent's about it.
Oh, well, thank you for the information.
And I wanted to tell you, Jody Mo, you did a good job running this city.
Thanks, Tommy.
And we're gonna get we got a question about IRB coming that everybody wants.
Oh, we're working on it.
And we told Dwayne Dickerman, you do a good job here.
Thanks, Tommy.
Are there any other public comments? I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
We have a motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Clem. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening.
That's what he